Well, I'll first start off with my name, Theresa Bustos-Ortega, and Bustos is my maiden name. And um, I live in the city of Commerce City, and my parents moved here when I was 5 years old. We are on to the west of me is Suncor Refinery. To the east of me, of my home, is it was considered the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. That was the name of it, but now it's the Rocky Mountain Arsenal Wild Refuge. I live in this community that had to fight for clean water. And growing up, I never liked the water. It was really harsh, and I believe we get our water from an aquifer. This area was a lot of rural area. So when I was growing up, there was still horses. People boarded horses in on their lots. And I remember the water being in the irrigation ditches and the water going into the rows of vegetables that we had to farm. And so there was onions, radishes, and different staple vegetables in this area. So water to me was fairly introduced to me, my awareness of it very early in life. But we didn't know that our water was being contaminated when we were growing up. And when I was about 10 or 12, I experienced a 3.0 earthquake. And we found out, and it was reported that it was from the Rocky Mountain Arsenal because they were pumping in chemicals. So I think it was later on when I became an activist for the contamination is when I found out more history about it. I don't know exactly how we found out that the water was contaminated, but my kids were in elementary school, and I think my oldest was like 8 years old. And so the community was alerted through our media that the water was contaminated. And then they started to bring in bottled water for our children in school. So we had to, I don't know for how many, I think it was a few months. So then I started attending meetings through the community coalition that started making the residents aware of the contaminated water. They go to Washington and they testify to Congress on, and then the legislation gets passed. They have to decontaminate the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. During that time, there was one summer night that it was so hot in my home, and I was like, oh gosh, this heat is just horrendous. So I opened the window, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is that smell? And it's like midnight or something, it's real late. And it was the most horrendous smell that I've ever smelled in my life. Then me and my kids broke out with boils, and they were huge. I can't remember me going to the doctor about them. I don't remember, but I think that was a time that I probably didn't have health insurance either, so that's probably why I just toughed it out. We all toughed it out. So thereafter, they went away. The boils went away. Our water they started to build a plant to filter the water. So now we have our water department's really good about water conservation and educating us. And that's been the gist of living here in this community where water has really taken, it's been a really big element of my life.